Hey, babe, I'm going to take you out to the 7th most visited national park in the country.
I'm excited to go to this national park, and I think our listeners are going to be excited too.
I think they're going to be surprised when we say what it is.
They're going to be incredibly surprised because I was surprised.
And guess what? It's free to get into this national park.
Yes,
you don't need your
is.
park pass.
You don't.
Where are we taking everybody?
We're going to go to Cuyahoga Valley National Park.
Put your seatbelts on.
Here we go.
Did you know that 46 million Americans plan to take an RV trip in the next 12 months? 90% of recreational vehicle owners take 3 or more mini vacations every year. Welcome to the RV Destinations Podcast. If it's RV travel, we're talking about it. From campgrounds to museums to national and state parks, kayaking and hiking opportunities. One of the most fun and pleasurable things you can do is just hit the road. So be ready to be inspired. Welcome in to the RV Destinations Podcast. Now your host, President Randy Beheimer and Editor-in-Chief, Caly Beheimer.
So how are you doing today, babe?
That is a loaded question.
Oh my gosh. Everybody probably knows, we've said it on most all the podcasts here recently, that we've sold our home and we've been in the process of moving everything out. Plus we're running 2 businesses with the magazine, the podcast, and also we have a financial services business.
Yeah.
We're running all 3, so we are literally exhausted. We leave in 2 days for about 45 days. We're going to head back, and we're going to be closing on a rental that we have, our cabin, during that time.
Yeah, I know.
And then come back and close on our house, the sale of the house.
Right, and get the rest of the stuff moved out. I mean, so we're sitting here, and it's comical, and maybe we'll do a video of this so you can see. We're literally hiding everything, like back in the kitchen on the floor, so you can't see it, and everything, it's just chaotic. We've got bins, the stuff that's going to we're going to donate, and I can't talk today either. So it's going to be one of those days. I've struggled. I've been on the struggle bus with just speaking today.
Yeah, no, I understand. So, all those full timers out there are like, yep, I've been there, I've been done that. I know exactly where you're at. And don't worry, there's light at the end of the tunnel. So we get to go out to Montana. We're going to visit this small little town, Buffalo, Wyoming. That invited us to come out, and we're going to do a full feature on them in January.
And Casey, Wyoming.
Casey, Wyoming. Yep, we're going to visit both those towns, and we're going to head up to Glacier for 30 days. I'm so excited. So,
and part of that time, the kids and the grandkids will be there. So we're renting them a VRBO, and then we've got, of course, the RV, but we're going to do a big family vacation. I'm excited.
We're going to have all the grandkids there. We're going to have 3.5 grandkids there.
3.5 because one's still baking in the oven.
One's still in the oven. My son's got one in the oven, and one already developed.
Yeah, one has left the oven. The other one's still in the oven.
Yep.
It's just weird.
And I'm sore right now because I've been working out pretty hard, but I have been I'm contemplating on doing a show at the end of the year, but also I'm worried about hiking with my son and son-in-law.
Who are young whippersnappers.
Yeah, so I've been doing like a full incline on the treadmill, and my legs are sore, my back's sore, and it's hard getting double nickels.
It is. I know. Your double nickels, babe, is in 2 days.
I'm double nickels. So
in 2 days.
August 22nd, we're recording this 2 days before August 22nd.
I know. And what's so cool is think of all the 55 plus RV parks we can now get into in Arizona and Florida.
There we go. So what are we talking about today?
So this is a really cool one. Okay. So this is Cuyahoga Valley National Park, which is located in northern Ohio. It's only about 30 minutes south of Cleveland. In the Cuyahoga Valley. And this is, I grew up in Ohio. So you had always heard, I had grown up hearing about Cuyahoga Valley Park. Back then it was just like a park. It might've been a state park. And it was a place that I always wanted to go to because people talked about how beautiful it was. And when it became a national park, that was obviously a big deal for the state of Ohio because that's Ohio's only national park. And I had been asking you for a while, let's go to Cuyahoga Valley National Park. And your response was, yeah, let's not.
Yeah, so I had very low expectation for Cuyahoga Valley National Park because I've been all through Ohio, and there's what I would call no real pretty part of Ohio. Sorry to all my Buckeye people out there if you're listening.
Right. Southern Ohio is very pretty.
Cincinnati, you've got the hills and all that. But also eastern Ohio out by West Virginia, it gets, hilly and a little bit prettier.
Right.
But if you're driving from like Cincinnati to Columbus or even out to Cleveland, it's just flat as can be. Of course, up in Sandusky on the water and all that's kind of pretty. So I apologize. I probably kind of went a little too far on that. You just
grouped Ohio into one category.
That's right. But
flat.
But yeah, so I had very low expectations, and honestly, I walked away really having a greater respect for it. I did enjoy it. I don't want to say I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy it very much, actually more than I thought I would. There was a lot more stuff to photograph.
Yeah.
There was a lot more stuff to do than I expected.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool, the story. We'll get into that when we do the top 10, but the story of why they protected this area.
Yeah.
And so just really cool.
It is. And what's really neat about, and forgive me, I'm looking at my notes, so you'll see me looking down. Cuyahoga Valley National Park is the only national park that is home to metro parks, small towns, a vast network of roads. I mean, think about that, because a lot of national parks don't have a big road system, businesses and attractions. So it's very unique because Cuyahoga Valley National Park, there's literally little towns dotted all through it, and the national park encompasses all of that. So it's really neat as you're going through the park and doing different things and visiting the different areas, you pop in through super cute little towns that you can stop and make it a whole experience in that town as well. And we'll talk about that in the top 10.
So yeah, we both walked away thinking, and this is a pretty cool park, and I think everybody out there should go visit that. This is going to sound bad, and I don't mean it to. I wouldn't go out of your way to go to this park. If it's on your way or somewhat close, I'll go to it.
Okay, and I would say go out of your way because it is so different than national parks, other national parks. You think of, when you think of national parks, they're usually encompassing one big thing, like the geothermal features in Yellowstone.
Right.
That's what makes up Yellowstone. Bryce Canyon or all the hoodoos, and that's Bryce Canyon. Cuyahoga is a mix of everything.
Yep.
And I think that's why it makes it so unique. And it is the 7th most visited national park in the United States.
I don't even know how they track that because they don't charge. They don't have an entrance gate. So how do they even know that?
I don't know, but they know.
So so when you think of Cuyahoga Valley National Park, you've got to kind of take the traditional national park out of your mind because that's not what this is. This is a national park that's a part of land that there's businesses inside of it. There's homes inside of it. They basically said, okay, this is the area. We're going to protect all this area.
Yeah.
And that's Cuyahoga Valley National Park. So
and how it all began. So Cuyahoga Valley originally was inhabited by the native Indian tribes that lived in that area. As the United States got more and more populated, people started heading west. They came across the Cuyahoga Valley. They're like, wow, this place is pretty special. And people stayed there. And commerce came in, and it grew and grew and grew and grew. And then, unfortunately, it became a very toxic area, literally.
Industrial. There's a lot of industry that came into the area.
A ton of industry.
They were dumping stuff in the river.
Right. They dumped stuff in the river, so much so that the river caught on fire twice in the late 50s and early 60s. So that's kind of a big deal for a body of water to catch on fire. How does that even
happen? What's the river? I can't even remember the river.
I think it's is it the Cuyahoga River?
Is it the Cuyahoga?
Is it as simple as that?
Yeah. That sounds right. The Cuyahoga River was on fire?
Yeah, it was the Cuyahoga River because they were all these companies and manufacturing facilities were putting toxic waste and sewage into the river. And so people said, look, this is a very special area. We need to clean it up. And there had been areas that had been taken over by, my brain really is not working today, junkyards. So junkyards and other things like that used to be like beautiful swaths of land. And so, a group of people came together and said, we need to save this. Now, here's a really interesting fact. So they started finally cleaning up this area. There was a 47 acre, and I think it's pronounced Kredji dump. And it covered, again, 47 acres The national park acquired that, said we're going to clean this up. It took them 25 years to clean up this Kredji dump area. 25 years. It just got cleaned up in 2015. Isn't that nuts? It took them that long. Yep. I mean, that's kind of how crazy it was. But what's so cool is that Mother Nature really came back in. The land has healed. And it's been reclaimed. And now it's just kind of a neat kind of special area.
And we're going to talk about a lot of the trails and all that, but along a lot of the trails, you'll see placards that talk a little bit about the cleanup and all that. And they really have done a lot of work. And again, maybe I'm being a little too harsh. Go see it. It was wonderful. I did enjoy it. And we're going to dive into some of this stuff. But there's a wonderful train ride we're going to talk about shortly, and some great hiking and some different things.
Trails. Because keep in mind, too, there's a lot of historical things in this area because this is where the Ohio and Erie canals came through. Right. So you have that history. You have the lock history. There's a homestead there. There's just a lot of really cool history. And then the train.
True. You want to jump into some fun facts?
Let's jump into fun facts. I'm excited to hear these.
All right. So number one, there's 9 of them. Number one, Cuyahoga National Park has at least 943 different plant species.
Interesting.
Yeah. Cuyahoga is dedicated to maintaining the region's natural biodiversity. The vegetation is primarily in the mix of mesophytic forest category.
That's what I was going to say.
Mesophytic. I think it's meso for sure.
Hey, I had to try to sound out Kredji. Yeah, see? So I'm with you there,
I think
Tiger.
mesophytic or phytic, something like that. I'm pretty close. Phytic forest category, which means there are a medium level of moisture in the area. It's possible to find plants like bloodroot, goldenrod, wildflowers, shrubs, and plenty more within the park lines. Because some of Cuyahoga Valley National Park has been developed to include public and private businesses, many of the local forests are smaller and more dispersed than they used to be. So, again, you've got to take off that traditional national park.
Yeah.
You don't think of like all-encompassing Grand Canyon or Yellowstone or
even the Smoky Mountains, because even though Smoky Mountains backs up to Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, it is its own entity.
Right. There's no businesses inside of it. There's no homes inside of it. This is going to be different. You're going to be driving through the park and you'll see somebody washing their car in their driveway.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So Cuyahoga was derived from the Mohawk word. It's generally believed that the word Cuyahoga is derived from the Mohawk word Cuyahoga, which means crooked river.
Cuyahoga.
That's Cayaga. So
I'm going to go with Cuyahoga.
Yeah, I don't know how else to be pronounced, but the name alludes to the structure of the Cuyahoga Valley. So, again, getting its name from the Indian Mohawk word. Cuyahoga National Park is free to enter, as we said. There's no entrance fee. There's no gates. Pretty much just drive in. There are signs that say you're entering the national park. Cuyahoga became a national park in 1974. So it's a newer park. Cuyahoga is one of the U.S.'s newer national park. It was designated in 1974 at the Cuyahoga Valley National Recreational Area as the Cuyahoga Valley National Recreation Area. Members of the National Park Service resisted its initial designation, as turning Cuyahoga into a national park would divert resources from many of the other country's more well-known park like Yosemite and Zion, but locals rallied to the cause and pushed it to designate Cuyahoga was a success.
Yes.
Howard Kendall made a significant donation to Cuyahoga National Park. Not sure who he is. He's some businessman. He offered up 430 acres of land to the national park to help create what we go through today. Cuyahoga Valley National Park contains 32,950 acres. It's actually one of the nation's smaller national parks.
It's a little itty-bitty baby park.
Yeah, it contains 32,950 acres of land. Comparatively, Zion National Park contains 148,000 acres.
Jeez.
Yosemite is 750,000 acres. Rocky Mountain National Park is 249,126 acres. And Yellowstone is an astonishing 2,221,766 acres.
Oh my!
That's why
gosh.
It takes you all day to get to the circle in
because it's like a figure 8 through Yellowstone, and like if you just want to go here, that plan on spending 6 hours just doing that little nugget right there.
Can you imagine 2 million acres? Oh my gosh!
Wow, that's a whole lot of land.
In 2020, Cuyahoga was the 7th most visited national park. It saw 2,755,628 visitors, making it the 7th most visited national park in the U.S. The 6 national parks that surpass Cuyahoga's visitation numbers are the Great Smoky Mountains, Yellowstone, Zion, Rocky Mountain, Grand Tetons, and Grand Canyon.
Think about that. You know what?
That blows my mind.
Kudos to Cuyahoga Valley National Park. That's a spectacular ranking, you know? I mean, they're hanging out with the big dogs of national parks.
And again, I would love to get a ranger on the phone to ask how do they count that?
How?
There's no admission fee, there's no entrance.
There's no entrance, and that's what makes the park very unique also, because for folks that have gone to Smoky Mountain National Park in the past, you could get in for FREE free. That is no longer the case. They now have entrance gates to get into that park. So yeah,
but think about it. Like Joe Smith that lives in the park, he goes out to work every day.
Right? Do they count Joe
twice a day?
Hey Joe.
Thank you for giving us 2 in and outs today.
I know.
You gotta go get milk. Okay, now we've had 3 people visit the park this year. So how does that work?
I have no idea.
I got questions.
I don't have answers.
Well, we're gonna have to put one of our team members on this.
I think we need to. That's interesting.
Cuyahoga National Park has more than 125 miles of trails. We're going to talk a lot about that.
Yes.
I think that was one of the high points for me, were all the trails. They're biking, and we'll get into that. Biking, walking, hiking, running, whatever you want to do. And number 9, Cuyahoga National Park has become a symbol of ecosystem renewal.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit about this later. And that's it. So actually, there's a 10th one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Cuyahoga National Park is home to more than 20 different reptile species.
That's right, isn't it? It's like the snitch or the snip or the snake or the snark. Remember, we had a technical difficulty. We attempted to record this podcast last week, except Randy forgot to hit the record button.
I forgot to hit the record button on the cameras, but we had great audio.
We had great audio. It would have been amazing. But,
so we're sorry, we're giving you our second best.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, guys.
But yeah, there's 11 different snake species, 8 different turtle species, and even a skink.
Skink, that's what it was.
Yep.
A skink. Because I looked it up, and it's literally like a mixture of a snake, a tadpole, and an alligator in a small form.
Maybe our editor can put up a picture of a skink right now, so those people
and not a skank.
Yeah, SKINK. So
there's an I, not an A in there.
If you're watching us on YouTube, hopefully we'll get a picture up right here. If you're not watching us on YouTube,
Google it.
Google it. Check it out.
Check out these little critters. They're kind of creepy looking.
Yeah, while there's no venomous snakes have been spotted within the park to date, it's possible that the northern copperhead and eastern Masiago, I think it may make their homes in this region. Another poisonous snake. So
it's just a snake.
Yep, a snake, a poisonous one. All right, that's all I got. That's all I got. I'm done. I'm going to go to bed now.
Go to bed now. And where did you get that information? Because I don't think you shared that.
Oh, I didn't. That's on mentalfloss.com. Thanks.
Mentalfloss?
Oh,
Mental Floss.
Yeah,
okay.
We've used them before.
Yeah.
They seem to be pretty accurate.
Pretty knowledgeable.
All right, so what do we got for number 10 here?
All right. So number 10, and we do this for a lot of different places that we go and visit and recommend. Number 10 is stop by the visitor center. So the Boston Mill Visitor Center. And it's just what I love about the visitor centers, wherever you are, is they can really help you plan your trip. So if you just take a couple hours, swing by, say, here are the things that I would like to see or do or accomplish, or what are some hidden gems that you recommend, they're going to help you out with that. And this visitor center in this national park is no different. It's a beautiful little facility, and it's right on the train tracks. I think it is one of the stops for the train. I'm not 100% positive. I'll have to look that up. But it's a newer facility. There's rangers there on staff every day. If you have questions, again, they can help you plan out your trip. This is where you're going to go to get your park map. And you know that little newspaper that you get every time you go to a national park that tells you all the recent happenings, everything that's going on. You're going to get that too. And then they have some interpretive information inside. So they've got some, placards on the walls that you can read through, and information about the area, why this was chosen for like the Ohio and Erie canals. So just a great place to start your trip at Cuyahoga Valley National Park.
So I can confirm Boston Mills Visitor Center in Cuyahoga Valley National Park is a stop on the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad. So
perfect.
And I thought I agreed with you. I thought it was too as well, but I wanted to look it up to be sure. But anybody that's not stopping at a visitor center at national parks, why?
Why? Exactly. Why? Like,
I mean, I can't even imagine why you wouldn't do it, because we always. Even if we're familiar with the park, and like Yellowstone, we've been 3, 4, 5 times, whatever it's been now. And we still go to the visitor center, pick up maps, hiking trails, you look at the current conditions of the trails and different things like that.
Right, because sometimes there's things that are closed or open. I mean,
or bears in an area,
right?
And you maybe you want to go on that trail, maybe you want to stay away from that trail. So
exactly.
I mean, we were in, I think it was Yellowstone, and they said there's been 4 or 5 bears spotted on this trail, and they were suggesting not to go on it, but they didn't go as far as telling you
not
can't go.
To. They were just like, there's some bear in that area.
Yeah,
maybe not go.
You might want to go to a different
like
place.
my grandson says, maybe not. Maybe not go there.
That's very funny.
It is very.
All right, so moving on to number 9.
Number 9, and this is Visit Peninsula. And you're like, okay, what the heck is Peninsula? You know how we were talking about Cuyahoga surrounds all these towns. Peninsula is one such of these towns. It is a cute town. There's some historic buildings there. The town was settled back in 1818, so it's an old town, which is cute. But they've got some restaurants. They have a popcorn shop, which if anybody knows me really well, you know that popcorn is kind of my crack. One of the train stops is there. They have a music venue. There's shopping. There's a sandstone quarry in the area. So this is another one of those great little towns that you can just either, if you're doing the train ride, which we'll talk about, stop there and spend some time, or just while you're going through the park, plan to spend a few hours in this really cute little town. And remember, we drove around and looked at some of the historic like barns and buildings that were in town, and it was just it's sweet. It's special.
Yeah, Caly loves the small, quaint towns.
And
I like them. I mean, I'm fine with them, but this is another one of those cute towns that you want to go see while you're there.
Yeah, and it was a super cute town. So go and for me, go to the popcorn shop.
Yep. And the popcorn shop.
Isn't there
a rap song like that?
And now you're gonna make me.
No,
yeah,
it's okay.
Okay.
Moving on to number 8. Enjoy the Towpath Trail.
Yes.
Let's talk about this, because I really enjoyed this.
This is huge, and this is a big thing to do in the park. First off, the Towpath Trail in and of itself is crazy famous because this is literally the towpath trail of the Ohio and Erie Canal system, and it passes through Cuyahoga National Park. The full trail is 90 miles, and 20 of those miles pass through the park. So you can go further out of the park if you wanted to, but 20 miles is a lot to cover. It is wide, it's flat, it's like gravel, but not thick gravel, kind of like little pieces of gravel. Like, what would you call that? Peat gravel? Like the tiny little, not sandy, gravelly, but not like...
It's the rock that you can ride a bike on and not be afraid of. So
perfect.
So it's more of a sandy type gravel.
Yes, but it's perfect for biking. So if you are a biker and whether you have a regular pedal bike or an e-bike, it is perfect for that. If you're a runner, if you're a walker, it's definitely a path to get out on. There's going to be some sections of it that are a little bit more kind of secluded and quiet away from things. Sections of it that go through kind of more popular areas of the park, but beautiful scenery. The section that we were on over by the Beaver Marsh, which we're going to talk about next at number 7, there's remnants of part of the canal system, a lock. So
let's explain what the towpath is. So
did I not explain that very well?
I don't think you visually did a great job. So these were canals. This is part, as she said, she did say the Ohio and Erie Canal system. And so what they would do, in fact, let me read the history of the towpath. It's right here, and then we'll kind of follow it up with some more details. But the Towpath Trail follows the historic route of the Ohio and Erie Canal. Before the canal was built, it was built in 1825 to 1832, Ohio was part of America's frontier. Travel was difficult, and getting crops to the market was nearly impossible. The canal provided a successful transportation route across the state, connecting the Ohio River at Portsmouth and Lake Erie at Cleveland. The canal opened up Ohio to the rest of the eastern United States. So essentially what this is, that it's a small water canal that they would have, I don't know what they're called. I don't know what the technical name, but
of the boats in the canals?
Right. The boats would have like a pole.
A pole.
And it was connected to people walking on this path alongside the pole.
Well,
or the mules, right? Horses, mules, and all that.
Most of it was horses and mules that would literally, and that's why it's called the towpath.
Right.
Because they would hitch up this, think of it as like a miniature barge, essentially, a miniature wooden barge. And these horses and mules would literally walk it down the Ohio and Erie canals.
Yeah,
and that was the towpath.
Right. So they would put all their crops or whatever they were trying to sell into the boat, and then the mule or the horse would basically have this big pole that was attached to the boat in the canal, and attached to them. They would walk down the towpath and just pull it all the way up to the Cleveland or wherever they were going with it.
And that was a lot easier for the horse or the mule versus trying to put that in a wagon. Right. Because as we know, pushing things through water is a lot easier.
Right.
So this towpath is still there, which is so cool when you just think about the history of the horses and mules and everything that they transported via these small little barges on the canal. I just think that's so cool. And now it's something that's obviously open to the public. And again, 20 miles are in the park that you can walk and run and bike and hike and just enjoy. And there is some beautiful scenery to see for sure. We went to several different areas in the park on the towpath, and it was just a kind of a neat and cool experience everywhere we went.
Yep. That was one of the highlights. And then you had the big bridge that was beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of that bridge. It was a bridge. I think it was a major freeway, but it's a beautiful bridge. You can actually see that.
It might have been I-80. I don't know.
I think it was a major highway. I just can't remember which one it was, but
yeah.
All right, moving on to number 7.
Number 7 is visit the Beaver Marsh. And this is something that can be seen off the towpath. So there's a section that you can go to. Again, if you stop by the visitor center first and get your Cuyahoga Valley National Park map, you'll be able to see where this is. But the Beaver Marsh covers 90 acres. And what is so cool about this history? So it started off as a beaver marsh. It was drained in the 1800s to be developed into a dairy farm. Then it was home to a massive junkyard. And then once the national park got the land, they said, okay, we need to clear all this out. So they removed all of the cars, filled it back up with water, reintroduced beavers, and it became this beautiful marsh again. So what's really neat is there's a section of the towpath that actually turns into kind of like a boardwalk. And it's a nice, wide, beautiful boardwalk that goes out across this beaver marsh. And it's just beautiful. I mean, you're standing here and this mass of 90 acres is in front of you. And it's just lily pads and turtles and frogs and birds. So if you're a bird watcher, there were quite a few people out there with their bird books and binoculars, bird watching. Great place for photography. Just a sweet spot too if you just want to sit and just enjoy the peace and quiet, because there's kind of just it was a very, very peaceful area.
It was neat. It was probably my second or third favorite thing to do there.
Yeah.
Now you did say that was an old junkyard there, right? Because they told us that on the train. Remember?
Yes, it was.
They said there was old cars there that they yanked out of the marsh.
Yep, they had to pull it all. I mean, and how do you drain a marsh? Like, is there a plug at the bottom of it, and they just pop the plug and it drained? Like, how does that even work? You know, and that's what's crazy to me is how did they drain it? How did they keep it from refilling back up? And then how did they refill it back up?
Yep.
I don't know. Questions that I have.
On the national park site, it's saying that the Beaver Marsh is among the most diverse natural communities in Cuyahoga Valley National Park. So this is where you're going to see a lot of the different animals. As Caly said, the birds, and you're going to see the beavers, you're going to see muskrats, you're going to see all different things. And they've actually, on the website, it's pretty cool. They've got it broke down by what you can kind of see in spring, summer, fall, winter. We saw a lot of turtles. We were there in, was it summer when we were there?
No, I think it was spring, maybe like June.
Okay, yeah, early summer,
June,
summer, late spring. That's what I was thinking. So I mean, different insects come out, and different, at dusk there's bats. There's hunting insects. I don't know what that water lilies, snakes. You have turtles and frogs just laying on lily pads.
And we saw that. We saw so many turtles. And then this is what I was talking about before, is there is not far from the Beaver Marsh, so just south of the Beaver Marsh, and that's actually one of the parking areas anyway to get there. So you would pass it if you parked south of the marsh. There is the remnants of an old lock in a section of the canal, which I, again, thought was so cool because it's just sitting there. Mother Nature has kind of taken over it. It was neat to get some pictures of it, and just beautiful because, this towpath is surrounded in a lot of sections by big mature trees. So it's just, again, a very peaceful kind of serene area. And then it opened up to the Beaver Marsh, and it was very nice. It was very enjoyable.
Definitely take a walk on the Beaver Marsh. So going on to number 6.
Yes.
We got to see that. Didn't we have lunch at that covered bridge?
We did. And that is see a covered bridge is number 6.
Yep.
So Everett Covered Bridge is the only remaining covered bridge in Summit County. And it is located in Cuyahoga National Park. So they have it closed off to traffic. You can only walk across it now, but you can walk across it. They believed it was built around 1877, and it's a sweet, whimsical, red, tiny little wooden covered bridge, and it crosses a Furnace Run, which is a tributary of the Cuyahoga River. And it was reconstructed because apparently a fire broke out, a storm. It was damaged by storm. So it was rebuilt, refurbished-ish in 1986.
So the story why it was built is kind of a not haunting story, but just kind of a sad story.
Okay.
So it said, and I'm reading this off of the National Park site. So on a winter's night in 1877, Valley farmer John Gilson and his wife had crossed Furnace Run when returning home from visiting friends. A winter storm had caused the waters to rise and ice to obstruct the ford that they would have used. In passing around the ford, Mrs. Gilson was thrown into the stream.
Aww.
Mr. Gilson lost his footing and was dragged by his horse into the deeper water. Mrs. Gilson was rescued, but Mr. Gilson's body was never recovered until 4 days later. The story continues that the bridge was built in response to this tragedy. Actually, I should have continued reading.
Okay.
I just read that part and I'm like, wow, that's pretty sad. In truth, the date of the construction is unknown. It could have predated the drowning. So the drowning's true.
Okay.
But apparently they're not sure if that's the reason built. They think it was built before that. However, clues suggest that it was built close to the time of the incident. So they can't confirm that was the reason.
That it was like...
So that was a tragedy that happened, but they can't confirm that was the reason the bridge was built.
Okay, that's fair.
Anyway, interesting.
It is. So number 5, I am so sad we did not get a chance to do. And I want to... so before I even get into number 5, one of the things I'm going to say about Cuyahoga Valley National Park is I think you'll be surprised at the amount of time that you can actually spend in this area and in this park. And when we came in, I think we only gave it 4 days. And we ended up going, oh my goodness, there's so much more to see and do than we anticipated. And we ran out of time. It's the story of our life. So we didn't get to do number 5, which is Step Back in Time at Hale Farm. And this is a really, really cool area. It is essentially a living history museum. And it's set up like a farm and village where you can go in and see what life was like back in the early 1800s. So they have different artisans set up like candle makers, spinners, weavers, glass blowers, potters, iron, metal workers. So you can literally just see all of this and see how it was done. And Hale Farm it was a real working farm. It was the Hales that lived on this farm. And so this section of the park has been preserved to show, hey, this is what life was like back in the 1800s. So, and I'm sad that we missed it.
Yep. I'm reading it here. It seems pretty interesting. And but we didn't want to spend, we've been to places where we just allowed too much time.
Yeah.
And it was like, that actually happened in Paris of all places, not in our RV, of course.
Right.
But we stayed there like 14 days and we were like, man, 8 would have been perfect.
8 or 9 would have been sufficient. Yeah.
And so we've always been very cautious about that. We'd almost rather understay than overstay because then we could always come back. But this was one of those that we were only there 3 days. We didn't think there was going to be a lot, and there was way more than we expected. So.
Right. And the Hale farm, so on there, some of the buildings that you can see that have been preserved from the original Hale family are a farmhouse, a schoolhouse, church, and blacksmith shop. So I just think it would be a really neat area. I know that they do like demonstrations so that you can, watch the blacksmith work and you can see these folks doing these crafts to see how it was done back in the 1800s. I remember going to a place as a kid. It was a field trip, and it was to one of these kind of like historic, this is how things were done back in the day kind of places. And it still to this day, I remember the whole candle making section, like going and dipping the candle and just being in complete and total awe of how they made candles back in the day.
Right.
And I think I visited that like in the 2nd grade, which we all know was only like, 10 years ago? But
yep,
because I'm so young and youthful.
Exactly. All right, moving on to number 4. Take a hike. And
take a hike, Randy.
We did a couple different hikes, 2 different hikes that were a lot of fun.
They were. I mean, they have 125 miles of hiking trails.
In addition to the towpath, you can hike the towpath, which we did too.
Yes.
Or you can do a traditional hiking trail like you would think and go out there. And that was actually very pretty. One of the falls.
Was.
Brandywine.
Brandywine Falls. Brandywine Falls. So we did that. So we did Brandywine Falls, and it's a loop hike. It was relatively easy. So it's a 2.6 mile loop. It's considered an easy hike. But it takes you by the Brandywine Falls, which hopefully are popping up now for those that are watching us on YouTube. And the Brandywine Falls are about 65 feet. They're actually a very pretty waterfall. And if I remember correctly, babe, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you can park in the parking area, go over and see the falls without doing the loop trail. I think you could do the loop trail if you wanted to, but you could also see the falls without it. I thought, because I thought I remember like coming around a corner, hanging a right, and we were like, oh, there's the falls, and maybe I'm wrong.
I'm looking. I think you might be getting.
Am I confusing?
No, you're right.
Okay.
So there is a parking lot, and they're saying if accessing by bike and hike trail, please consider parking at another trailhead. Okay. But then there is a parking lot, and they're saying it's generally full between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. So,
yeah.
So we hiked there the whole way. Right?
We did.
We did the full hike, and there was a lot of stairs, weren't?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are some stairs, but it's still rated a relatively easy hike because outside of the steps, it's flat. Now the other hike I think I liked a little bit more, and it's out to a place called the Ledges, and this was a 2.2 mile loop trail. And I would say it was medium in difficulty, only because I'll explain this. We parked, we come across this big grassy field, we enter in through these trees, we start hiking, it's flat, and then all of a sudden the earth splits wide open. And it was the weirdest thing. It was like we were walking through this forest, and then it was like God himself came down, put his fingers in and went, rip, and just like split open the earth. And it was all these crevasses and sandstone formations and cracks and crevices and boulders. And it was just like, where did this come from?
Right.
So you walk kind of along the top of the ledge, and then there's spots that you can take steps down in between these formations. And then you get to the bottom side and kind of get to see the ledges from the bottom. And then there's also an area that you can walk to that provides some amazing panoramic views of the Cuyahoga Valley, which was really cool. And I really, really enjoyed that one. So I say it's medium of effort because walking up and down some of those sandstone block steps can be a little challenging because, sandstone is slippery and there is some slight elevation change, very slight elevation change.
You know, I completely forgot that this was in Cuyahoga Valley. Now I'm looking at pictures and I remember it now. And we had a lot of fun.
Beautiful?
Because, I mean, you can follow the trail along and it takes you through these, as she's saying, crevasses. I'm not sure if that's the true word.
Crevasse. That's what the British say, crevasse.
Well, I'm not sure if that's what they call them, technically call them, but you can climb around through the rocks and all that. We had a lot of fun climbing around and there were some beautiful views, as she said. And I would agree that normally I'm a sucker for waterfalls. Give me a waterfall, I'm going to hike.
Yeah.
Ask her about our Norway waterfall.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'll hike pretty far for a waterfall, but actually this time I think she's right. I think that the Ledges Trail was a little bit more fun to me personally than the
I do too.
Brandywine.
Because it was such a dichotomy of. I remember again leaving, like walking across the grassy field going, did that just happen? Did we?
Right.
Was that really back there in those woods?
Right.
Like it was just.
It just completely changed.
It did.
Yep.
Totally. So I really enjoyed that one.
All right. Moving on to number 3, visiting a surrounding town. So tell us a little bit about the towns.
I shall. So as we've talked about, Cuyahoga Valley takes up and surrounds quite a few cute little towns. So I always like to say they're quaint and cute and charming because they are. And you're going to find plenty to do in each of these towns. So we already talked about Peninsula. That's a town that was settled back in 1818. So there's a lot of history there with the popcorn shop. Don't forget the popcorn shop. Hudson is another great town. I want to say newer, definitely had a newer feel. We did stop there and we ate at a place called Hudson's Restaurant. And that was really, really good. So Hudson's, like a little slightly newer, slightly larger than Peninsula. So more shopping, more restaurants, things like that. And then there's also, there was a great restaurant that I want to give a shout out for, and this is in Richfield. It's Olicia's Tavern. And actually our friends told us about this restaurant. And she, the owner of the restaurant, and who's also the chef, was she Slovakian? Was she Russian?
I don't know.
She was something like that. But amazing. We had pierogies. We had sauerkraut and kielbasa. And yes, remember that? And it was to die for. I mean, okay, I'm Polish, so I've had my share of pierogies and I've had my share of kraut and I've had my share of kielbasa. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So I definitely a shout out to that place. Also around the area, there's vineyards and wineries. There was a place called Sarah's Vineyard. We didn't get to make it out there, but we did go to Gaga for Goats.
Yes, that was a lot of fun.
That was a ton of fun because the baby goats.
You were kind of dragging me out there, and then I kind of had fun.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like baby goats?
Oh my gosh, they were the cutest things. Like Randy just sat there and he had baby goats like jumping all around him.
Felt like I needed to strike a yoga pose and
I know.
Like get on top of my back or something.
It was so cute. So we got to interact with those goats. And then, okay, for those of you who love Christmas movies like me, if you want to drive just 30 miles or 30 minutes north, The Christmas Story, that Christmas movie, The House, like it's there. Like we got to see the Christmas Story house.
It's a museum now.
It's a museum now. And you can see the outside, you can see the inside, you can see the bubkiss. I can never say the neighbors with the dogs, the hound dogs. Yeah. They had a massive gift shop that I got all kinds of Christmas Story stuff in. So, I mean, that was only 30 minutes away. So
Caly is like a fanatic with Christmas movies, and this is her favorite. Now, I got to be honest, I've never seen.
He's never seen it the whole thing through.
No, I've first of all, I never even attempted to watch it before I was married to Caly, but then we got married. And I fell asleep like 4 out of the 5 times that she tried to get me to watch it.
And I
just can't get past it.
And every year he's like, babe, you laugh so hard at the same parts, and you've seen this movie like 30 times.
Right.
Because it's a classic. You'll shoot your eye out.
See, I've never even seen that part.
Right.
The only part I've ever seen, and I seem to fall asleep and wake up at the same area every time, is when he sticks his tongue to the light pole.
Which is great. Yes.
That's the only part I've seen. But
it was so great.
Anyway, so if you're a fanatic like Caly, go check it out because it was cool. I did enjoy it. They've got the 2 homes or museums that you can tour. Mm-hmm. We didn't tour them because we didn't have time, but across the street was a museum or a gift shop, and you can go in and buy, T-shirts.
And I did.
Yeah, she's got a T-shirt.
Yeah, the old man. I have the old man T-shirt. I have You'll Shoot Your Eye Out T-shirt. I have the leg in a blanket. And I have Ralphie in his little bunny costume as an ornament. Like, I went to town at this place.
Yes, you did.
Yes. Okay. So definitely head up there and see it.
All right.
Okay.
So moving on to number 2.
Number 2.
See a working lock.
See a working lock. I mean, you're on the Ohio and Erie Canal system. Go see a working lock. And you can do that at the Canal Exploration Center. And this is located in a restored 19th century canal era building, which is really, really nice. So on the inside of the building, you can see all different kinds of exhibits, but really the main star of the show is outside of the building, and that is Lock 38. It is the last functioning lock on the Ohio and Erie Canal, which I just think is so cool. Isn't that neat?
Yeah, they shut a lot of them down. We passed, you talked about the one earlier, but I think we passed 3 or 4 tiny locks that were shut down.
Yeah.
One was out by the marsh. I remember that, but I think there was 2 out by the marsh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there was some out there.
So there's one more still functioning.
It's still functioning. Lock 38. And in the summertime, only the summer, because, this is northern Ohio. They're going to get some nasty winters. But they do demonstrations to show folks how that lock system worked. Because back then, everything was manual. It's not today where they hit a button and things fill up with water. It was, manually moving levers and gates to fill up and empty canals. And you make me really nervous now when you start gazing over here, because folks, over here is a little screen showing us being recorded. And now when you stare at it, I panic because last time you did, we were
like, oh,
we were in the middle of this and you're like, I forgot to hit record.
we were about 38 minutes into this podcast and I realized I didn't turn on the video camera.
Right. So he's just looking at me and he's like, you can stop talking. I'm like, what do you mean?
No, I just look over there to make sure it's telling me all the
fabulous. This is a weird side of my hair. I want to say that.
If only we had enough money to have like people that do this for me, and I wouldn't have to sit and look at the screen to make sure everything's going smoothly.
One day, baby. One day.
One day when we're famous.
If you are looking for a job, you let us know. Right now, the pay is huge at a big old fat 0. Right? Exactly.
All right. So we ready to move on to number 1? Are we at that point of the show?
We are.
250 strands of light. Drum roll, please.
And the number 1 thing to do while in Cuyahoga National Valley National Park, dyslexia kicking in there, is
take a train ride.
Yes, this had to be number 1 for me.
Yes, this was so cool, and we did the whole train ride. So it's the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railway, which is a historic train. So you have the historic engines and the historic rail cars, and it goes through the national park with stops in the national park. And what's really cool is that, the train is not, it's not the national park, but it operates through it. And so the national park and the train company work together, and you can use the train as like a shuttle. So you have the ability to park somewhere, hop on the train, and maybe you want to take in your bike, or you want to go hiking or even kayaking, and then it will take you to the location. You do all the stuff, down the river, and then when the train comes back, you just hop on it, ride it back up river, and it drops you back off where you park. So you can use it like as a shuttle system through the park, which is really cool. We did the tour, it's just a straight track. So you're literally going down and back.
So you go down to Canton, and then come back up, or is it Canton or Akron?
I don't know. I don't think it was.
You go down to one of them. So the Cuyahoga is kind of in between. Let's call it Cleveland, Akron, and Canton. It's kind of all in that that area.
And the park is very narrow and long.
I'm pretty sure we stopped at the northern part of Canton, and then that's where we turned around and went back. But it was a tour, and it was a lot of fun.
And there was
4 or 5 stops along the way, if I remember right.
Yep. And Peninsula was one of the towns that we stopped in. And you have the ability to get off. So, if you wanted to get off at Peninsula or off at the visitor center, you can get off and explore, wait for the train to come back, hop back on again. And it was really neat. So the car that we were in had been fully restored. It was beautiful. But the train itself just offers a lot of really cool programs to enjoy as well. So they have all different types of themed cars. So they have like a Christmas themed car at Christmas time, for the kids, but they'll do like storytelling for the kids on the train and just a bunch of fun, neat things. And I don't know if I said it. It takes about 2 hours to go through the park.
You did not say that, but I was going to say that.
Yeah, about 2 hours. And we passed an eagle's nest.
Yep.
Which was really neat to see. You get to see a lot of Cuyahoga National Park that you don't get to see otherwise outside of just going through the park another way.
Getting back to some of the things that the train offers. So they got cocktails on the rail. They got dinner on the train. They got breakfast along the Cuyahoga. So you've got all these different dining options and drinking options. And in fact, it was freezing cold. Remember, I went and bought.
Was so cold.
I bought a sweatshirt because I was in a t-shirt. It was they had the AC.
The AC
so
was
bad.
cranking. So bring layers just to be safe,
right?
Because they said they really can't, because it's such an old car. They can't really control it. It was like he's like, it's either on or off. That's it.
It's either hot or freezing.
Right.
And they also do a murder mystery. I want to pull that because those are always really cool.
So
I would like to go back and do that.
That would be neat. That would be so neat. So I was super impressed with Cuyahoga Valley National Park because it's just unlike other national parks. It really, really is so different, being so close to a major interstate, easy to get to, easy to access, super close to Cleveland. I mean, it was just, I really enjoyed it. It was surprising. Now, the downside, the downside is there's not a lot of RV parks.
Yep.
So
we'll talk about that.
Okay.
I've got them pulled up here, but I was going to talk about getting around first.
Yes,
we always talk about
let's
getting
do that.
around,
Let's do
and you're going to need a car. I mean, as she said, the train does do different stops, which you could do that, but that's, you're working on their schedule. So if you're not going to use the train, then you're going to have to bring your car.
Yes, absolutely.
Because the different things are just so spread out. So this is not something you can walk around. But as Caly said, there actually are a lot of campgrounds, but there are none of them that are really close. Now, we stayed at the Streetsboro KOA.
We did.
And they're not sponsoring the show. They're not, they don't even know we're bringing their name up, but they seem to be the closest to Cuyahoga that we could find.
Yeah, it was about 15 minutes from the east side of the park.
Right. So let me talk about some of the other campgrounds. Again, this is brought to you by RV Life, one of our great partners. If you're not using RV Life, you should definitely get out there and buy a subscription. We've got I think it's RV Destinations is a code.
RV Destinations is the code.
Is a code for RV Life, and it gives you, 20% off.
I think 20%,
30%, something like that. But you should. We use it all the time. If you're not using it, it's going to help you a lot with planning tools and different things like that. But anyway, so they have a free resource, and that's RV Life or campgrounds.rvlife.com, and they pretty much have all the campgrounds out there loaded up, and people can comment on and rate on, and so we use this all the time. So I've selected these, or I've sorted these by distance. So I'm going to go through these. So I got Silver Springs Campground, which is in Stowe, Ohio, which apparently is the closest. That's about 5 miles away from the park. You got Cherokee Park Family Campground. Well, I should say that the last one got 7.9 stars, which is pretty good. So the star system goes up to 10. Cherokee Park Family Campground only got a 6.5 stars, but it's 7.2 miles away. Then you have Countryside Campground, which is in Mogadore, Ohio, which got 8.3 stars, 7.6 miles away. Then you have the Streetsboro, which is where we stayed. It's Streetsboro, Cleveland, Southeast, KOA Holiday, and that's in Streetsboro. That's 7.7 miles. And it was a fine. They were real nice there. They didn't know we were with the magazine. I don't think we
even
didn't
told
them we were with a magazine.
And they had some nice little perks. They had like a catch and release fishing pond. They had ice cream and fudge, and it was a cute little place. And I would say, and now it's been probably 7 years, 6 years. No, it hasn't been that long. My bad. No, it hasn't been that long. But definitely check some of these campgrounds, because I know when I wrote about this, and I think it was in issue 6, I wrote about this. The Stowe Silver Springs Campground was just dirt and gravel, and they only had electric. They had no water. They had no sewage. So check the parks that could have changed since we originally wrote this article. I think Randy's looking it up right now.
Yeah, I think it was issue 8. No, you're right. Issue 6. So if you've got a digital subscription, you go back to issue 6, and Caly goes into great detail on the park and some of these things that we talked about.
But because again, where it's located, it is so easy to make it a bigger trip. You have Ashtabula, which isn't too far from there. You have Amish country, which isn't far from there. You have a ton of wineries and vineyards up closer to the lake. You have Cleveland. So
Sandusky is not too terribly far.
Right.
I mean, a couple hours, but
so,
yeah.
I mean, you could make this a big trip if you really wanted to.
Right. I mean, I could even see somebody that's coming from the west, stopping here on their way up to Niagara Falls, or out, up to the northeast or whatever. So it's definitely worth. And then maybe that's why they get so many visitors, because it is kind of and
it's right off of I-80.
Right. It's right on the way. But there also is a Yogi Bear Jellystone Park there. That's actually in Uniontown, Ohio. That's 10.8 miles, and that got 8.7 stars. So I'm gonna let me give you the highest rated here in the area. So let me see which one. So that's only had one review. That only had two reviews. I'm going to skip those.
47 stars.
Okay. So apparently the best one is the West Branch State Park.
Oh.
It's got 9 stars, lots of reviews, and that's in Ravenna, Ohio. Okay. It's not telling me how far that is away, but it looks like it might be upwards of 19 miles away. So again, if you want to get close, that Streetsboro KOA is fine. There's a couple other ones. The Jellystone looks like it's pretty close too. But if you're looking for best rating, you might need to drive a little bit further out. So, but that's really about all. We're going to wrap it up with Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Again, I went there with very low, if not, I would say no expectations.
You really did, yeah.
I really didn't want to go.
You didn't. And it was, I kind of drug you tooth and nail. Right. Like you were like,
But I left and I got it. I got it. I understood what it was about and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I would go back. I'd probably go back to do the train again because I really enjoyed the train.
That was cool.
And actually, I would probably take our e-bikes back. That would be a lot of fun.
That would be fun to do that Towpath Trail with the e-bikes for sure. Right. And use the train, because eventually the battery's going to die on that e-bike and we're going to need a ride back.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of wraps everything up for this. You want to take us out?
Sure. Randy, I want to thank you so much for being a part of our show today.
I'm glad to be a part of this show.
I am glad to be a part of the show as well. And I'd like to thank myself for being here.
You'd have to divorce me to get me off the show.
I am not going to do that. That's not a good idea.
Women actually file 70% of the divorces in America.
And you know why?
I just learned that yesterday.
And you know why? Because you guys don't do dishes. And if you do, you do them wrong.
Oh my gosh.
I know. But I have to make my own sound.
You said you want me to do the dishes.
I don't, because you don't do them right.
No matter how much soap and hot water I put on, the grease stays on the plate.
If you all could see his little spitting on the plate, like
two soaps. Did you just do a hot tui?
No, I didn't do a hot tui. I'm totally different.
All right, take us out, baby.
Okay, so I want to thank you all for being here out there. Thank you all for joining us. And please get out there, rate, review, subscribe to our RV Destinations podcast. Randy's looking at me all crazy again. I was going to lift this up so people could see. RV Destinations podcast. Wherever you listen to your podcast, please get out there and follow us on YouTube. So hit the little button below and subscribe so you can get notified when we have new YouTubes showing up. And don't forget to get out to our website. We have so much great free information, FREE, free travel resources for RVers. It's rvdestinationsmagazine.com. And if you use the code podcast20, if you purchase a magazine subscription, you're going to save 20% off any of our subscriptions, which is amazing. So anyway, just want to thank you all for being here and for listening, especially this long into the podcast. And y'all have a great day.
Be safe.
Safe travels, y'all.